And all across the country, there are plenty of folks who are hurting. They're worried about making their next mortgage payment. They're keeping their rent payments in check. They see the people at the top of the heap doing very well. An incredible number. Billionaires in America during this pandemic have made another $300 billion. Hear what I just said? In the middle of the pandemic. They're left to wonder, as a consequence, ordinary folks, who's looking out for me? You know, that's been the entire story of Donald Trump's presidency. And now, in the midst of this unprecedented national crisis, Trump has given up on even pretending to do his job. Almost 200,000 lives lost in the last 6 months. And experts tell us now, the same studies that relied on, the administration relied on to predict what's coming next, that we're going to lose another 215,000 lives between now and January 1st. The United States has another 36,000 new COVID cases per day. Another average 1,000 deaths a day. Just across the border, and figuratively speaking, a stone's throw into Canada. One day earlier this month, the United States had 1,000 deaths of COVID. Canada had 0. Just 3 days ago, I believe it was. America had 1,200 deaths. Canada had 9. So many lives lost unnecessarily because the president is only worried about the stock market and his reelection. He refused to do what you're doing right here in this program: social distance, wear masks, sanitize. You're protecting your apprentices. He's not protecting America. It's estimated by the scientists that if we just wore masks nationally, we'd save 100,000 lives between now and January 1st. Let me say that again. If we just wore masks nationally, we'd save 100,000 lives between now and January, according to the same study. You know, and it was estimated by a great medical school, Columbia Medical School, that if the president had just started 1 week earlier in March than he did, we'd have 36,000 more people sitting at the dinner table tonight, or being able to put your arm around grandpa or grandma tonight. And again, in his own words, recorded by Bob Woodward, the president knew back in February that this was an extremely dangerous communicable disease. Think about it. How many people across the Iron Range? How many empty chairs around those dinner tables? Because of his negligence and selfishness. How many lies said and lives lost? Imagine if he had just, Amy, on the State of the Union that year, spoke up and said, we got a problem, we can handle it. Here's what we got to do. I can't think of any president who's ever acted, in my view, so selfishly about his own reelection instead of a sworn obligation to protect and defend the American people. As I said last night in my hometown, I view this campaign as between Scranton and Park Avenue. All Trump sees from Park Avenue is Wall Street. That's why the only metric of the American prosperity for him is the value of the Dow Jones. Like a lot of you, I spent a lot of my life with guys like Donald Trump looking down on me. Looking down on the people who make a living with their hands. People who take care of our kids. Clean our streets. Maybe what bothers me most is the way he talks about, reportedly talks about from too many sources confirmed by many outlets, where he's talked about the men and women who joined the military and gave the full measure for their country as suckers. losers. Unless you think it's made up, remember how he was talked about John McCain, a political opponent but a close friend who I did his eulogy. John McCain was no sucker or loser. He was a hero. My son will volunteer and spend a year in Iraq, won the Bronze Star, the Conspicuous Service. He wasn't a loser or a sucker. He was a proud patriot. These are the guys I always thought they were better than me, better than us, because they had a lot of money. Guys inherit everything they got and still manage to squander it. I have to admit, which I guess is coming out and pretty obvious, particularly relative to Trump, I just have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about these guys. Recently, and I probably shouldn't have said it last night, but I did. Recently, I read some stories and was asked questions by a leading columnist that went like this. You know, if you get elected, you're going to be the first guy in a long time elected president without an Ivy League degree. Like somehow, a kid who went to a state university didn't qualify to be president of the United States without an Ivy League degree. Let me tell you something. I know how to do the job of being president. It's pretty clear. No matter how wealthy Donald Trump is, no matter how much he doctors his, if he does, his tax returns, he doesn't have a clue how to be president. One of the lessons my mother taught me, not a joke, a long time ago taught me and my siblings. It's one that you probably were taught too out here in Minnesota. He said, Joey, remember, nobody's better than you, but everybody's your equal. Nobody's better than you, but everybody's your equal. We don't measure people by the size of their bank accounts. I don't respect people based on how big the house they live in is. And I don't look down my nose when people are busting their necks just making a living, nor do any of you. Trump says, by the way, I'm paraphrasing, everyone's in the stock market. That's why he cares about the stock market. What the hell is he talking about? People I grew up in Scranton and Claymont, they don't have money in stocks. Every penny we made was to pay the bills and take care of the families. Putting clothes in their back and a roof over their head. In the market. That's why I have a different measure of which I judge the health of the American economy. My measure is Scranton, Duluth, Hermantown. Places where I grew up and so many people I know grew up. I see hard-working women and men who are just trying to earn an honest, decent living to take care of their families. They can just have a little bit of confidence, they can just see around the corner. But they don't have to live literally from paycheck to paycheck. Most do, but hoping for a little bit of space. Now the American people have seen these women and men, the essential workers. Workers who stocked the shelves in the middle of these crises in the grocery stores. Drivers who drove the trucks, delivered the food. Farm workers. Nurses who risked their lives, and in many cases gave their lives in the middle of this pandemic to save other people. Essential workers. And when they walk down the streets and people come out and clap pans and pots together to tell them how much they're appreciated, that's not enough. They're not asking for anything. They're just asking for a shot. I remind you, given a shot, the American people have never, ever, ever, ever let their country down. So it's about time we start to pay essential workers for the fact that they're essential. The blinders have been taken off the American people. I think they're ready. They're ready to insist that a minimum wage be $15 an hour. They're ready to insist
And if you're worried about the divide in this country and having a president that just keeps adding more fuel to the flames, you've got a home with Joe Biden, because he wakes up every morning and thinks, how can I lead this country and bring people together? So luckily, just like the Carpenters, we aren't afraid to roll up our sleeves. I have this vote mask because this is the first day of early voting in Minnesota. So let's go out there, let's vote, let's roll up our sleeves and get to work and elect Joe Biden as President of the United States. Thank you very much.